Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah, you're well, guys. So, this week is National Apprenticeship Week, and I thought it would be a good idea to release a couple of videos over the next month or so to talk about why doing an apprenticeship is a viable alternative to going to university. So, inshallah, in today's video, I'm going to talk about one of the most important matters, which is money, right? That's what we all work for. When we go to university, we go to get a degree in the hope that we improve our future career prospects and earn a good salary. So I haven't brought out the whiteboard in a while, so let's get it out and inshallah do some maths to show you how much better off you could be by doing an apprenticeship instead of going to university. So let's look at the cost of going to university first. So at university, the biggest outgoing that you'll have is the tuition fees, and that's at £9,000 per year. Now, in my view, that is a bit extortionate, but it is what it is. Obviously, aside from those tuition fees, you'll also have other outgoings, and that will be things like your accommodation. You may move away from your hometown to go to university, and therefore need to find accommodation either through the university or privately. And then you've got food costs. You've got to eat at university. And aside from that, you'll have your ongoing monthly commitments as well, such as your mobile phone. You may have a car, so your insurance costs, MOT, servicing, or if you don't have a car, you may use public transport to commute to campus each day. And that may cost you a couple of quid a day, which can definitely add up over the year. But what we're going to say is that for all your non-tuition related expenses, such as accommodation, food, commuting costs, whatever you have, we're going to say those costs are going to be covered by a part-time job at university. So any earnings from that part-time job are going to cover your outgoings. And as you guys probably already know, your tuition fees are going to be covered by a student loan. So when you leave university at the end of the 3 years, you will owe the government about £27,000. So one thing to remember is with the student loan is that it is interest bearing. So although you've borrowed £27,000, the likelihood is you will pay much more because of interest. So in terms of repayment, you will start repaying this loan once you earn over £26,575 per year. Now, a lot of you may be thinking, well, that's fine, actually. I'll just make sure that I don't earn over that amount. But actually, I want you guys to do well. And on this channel, we're all about encouraging you to apply for the Big 4 top 10 firms and excel in your careers. So if you get a graduate role in London at the Big 4 top 10, the chances are your salary will be around the £28,000 a year mark. So you will definitely start repaying that loan from day one. And that loan is repaid at 9%. So how it works is whatever your excess is over the £26,575 a year limit, you will pay 9% of that amount. So if you're earning £28,000 per year, you're going to repay 9% of the difference between that and £26,575, which equals to about £128 for a year. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but as I'm going to explain later on, it can quickly add up. So now that we've said you're £27,000 in debt, let's compare that to the apprenticeship or school leaver program route. So these programs are available at the Big 4 top 10 firms. And again, saying that we're working in London, the first year starting salary should be around the £22,000 a year mark. And after tax, that equates to £1,550 a month. Now, I know some of you will be saying, well, actually, in other areas such as Birmingham or further north, the salary is lower, and I totally appreciate that. However, you've got to remember the cost of living will be lower as well. So the following costs that I'm going to talk about will be much lower up north. So comparatively, it works out quite similar. So now let's think about what sort of costs you'll have once you're working in London. So the first cost is going to be commuting. You've got to get to work. And we're going to say that's going to cost around about £300 a month. Now, most school leavers that I worked with typically lived at home and commuted into work, but they may have been paying rent at home. And if you're not living at home, you may be renting privately. So we're going to say the rent is about £500 a month. And I know in central London that is ridiculously cheap. It may be higher, but we can transfer costs between commuting and rent, because if you are renting in central London, the chances are that you'll be living quite close to the office. So that means that your commuting costs will be lower. So for rent and commuting in total, I think it's fair to say about £800 a month is more than enough. And obviously, guys, if you're living at home, you can negotiate with your parents, right? You don't have to pay £500 a month rent. I'd say start at the £250 mark. And then like at university, you've still got to eat every day. So I'm going to give you guys a generous allowance of about £10 a day. Now, I know guys who would have survived on noodle pots for about £1 and saved the rest of that amount. But I'm going to be quite generous. I'm going to say you enjoy a coffee, a fruit pot, and with lunch, it can easily add up to £10. But I think it's worth mentioning that a lot of big organizations do offer lunch allowances. So I know KPMG offer lunch allowances, which, if I remember correctly, was around £4 a day. So if they're paying for your lunch, then you may be able to save that money. But what we'll say is the money can go towards a nice meal out as well. So for the month, we'll say on food alone, you're going to spend about £300. And then you're going to have monthly commitments, your phone bill, maybe car insurance, maybe other monthly commitments. And we're going to total those to about £150 a month. So at this stage, we've got total costs of £1,250 a month, which will leave you with about £300 a month to save. And over the year, in year one, you'll save about £3,600. But we're going to be quite prudent, right? You may want to go on a holiday. There may be emergencies. You may want to help someone out. So we're going to take £600 out from that total and leave it at a nice round £3,000 figure saved in year one. But for those of you that are saying, no, Fazan, it's going to be less, there's going to be other costs. Well, let me tell you, you also get a holiday. So there's about 25 days holiday per year. And with the public bank holidays, it works out to about 30 to 35 holidays, depending on who you work for. So that's about 6 weeks. So in that time, you'll probably save all those commuting costs. So there's about £300 save. And then also, whilst I was working in audit, I would travel around the country for about 6 to 8 weeks of the year. And if you find yourself in a similar role, you'll find that your company or organization that you work for will pay for your food costs and hotel costs as well. So you may save that £10 a day food allowance that I gave you for about 40 working days. Again, over the year, that may total up to around £400. So again, although you may have additional costs, there's other things such as holiday and traveling, which I haven't taken into account. So we'll leave it at £3,000 for the year. So then in year two, you'll receive a small annual pay rise, maybe a few percentage points, and maybe a little recognition for passing some of your exams. So at this stage, your salary is going to be around the £23,000 a year mark, which after tax means you get an extra £50 a month. So we're going to keep those costs the same, but we're going to say that extra £50 a month is inflation. Maybe your rent or commuting costs have gone up slightly. So we're going to keep it at that you're saving £300 a month. And again, we're going to take out £600 for the year for any holiday emergencies, things like that, that are unexpected. So again, in year two, you've saved another £3,000. And in year three, your salary goes up quite a bit. And I'd say that's quite common across a number of organizations. Your salary will go up to about a first year graduate salary, around the 28k mark. But again, we're going to be prudent. We're going to keep it at £27,000, which works out to a monthly salary of £1,835 after tax. So the reason why your salary takes a bit of a jump is because you firstly have been with the firm for about 2 years, so you built up some good experience. If you're an audit, you're probably going to be leading jobs at this stage. And secondly, you've probably passed a few stages of the exams. So like I said, your salary is probably going to be about £1,835 a month after tax. And we're going to keep your monthly outgoings at about £1,400. So we've increased it by £100 for inflation. One of the things I'll always say is the fact that when you earn more, your costs always go up. So we've added a bit more in just to be prudent. And then you'll be saving about £435 a month. And that across the year will work out to just over £5,000. And again, guys, emergencies, holiday, you don't know what's going to happen, right? You may have to spend some of those savings. So we're going to put that down to about the £4,500 mark. So across the 3 years, you can reasonably expect to save around £10,500. But what we're going to say is you're a bit wasteful, throwing money out. So we're going to round that down to a nice £10,000 saved. So now if we directly compare this to university, at university, you'll have a deficit of £27,000. Whereas if you took an apprenticeship, you'd be up about £10,000. So actually, overall, you're about £37,000 better off. But you know what? So we're going to say, again, there's additional emergencies whilst you're working, additional expenditure required of £2,000. So we're going to say overall, you're better off by about £35,000. Now that's crazy. That's a lot of money. I could tell you that for sure. And guys, from experience, I could tell you now, a lot of the school leavers that I was living with were still at home. and they definitely weren't paying around £500 a month in rent. So if you can save on that cost, your savings will increase by quite a bit. Now, I appreciate that those of you who want to go university or have been to university will say, Fazan, actually, the student loan that you take out is paid off slowly. You don't pay off that much each year. But I want to show you how those deductions can add up quite quickly. So after 3 years of being on a graduate scheme, you can reasonably expect to be a qualified accountant. And at that stage in London, your salary will be around the 50k mark. Now, if you're on 50k a year, your student loan repayment will be around £2,108 per year. £2,108 a year. Imagine what you could do with that much money. You could probably go on 3 holidays for the year. But again, on this channel, I want you guys to do well. I want you guys to progress. So say a few years after qualifying, so say 7 years after you started your grad scheme, you can reasonably expect to be made manager. And in practice, it will probably come quicker because it is tougher to get promoted in industry, I'd say. And your salary will be around the 70k mark. And at 70k, you're repaying your student loan off at £3,908 per year. So almost £4,000. And then 10 years after you started your grad program, maybe a bit longer if you rotated into different areas of the business, or if you're working in industry, you will be on around about £85,000 a year if you're pushing for senior manager or director level. At that stage, you're paying over £5,000 per year. Let that sink in. £5,000 per year at the age of 31. Oh, and by the way, guys, at this stage, us apprentices, we're paying nothing because we didn't go to university. And remember, guys, I said the loan is interest bearing. So although you borrowed £27,000, you will be paying back much more. So even though deductions may not be that big at the beginning of your career, I want you guys to excel and get to those senior positions. And that's where you will feel it in your payslip. So that's it, guys. Inshallah, you enjoyed the video. Be mindful because there were some assumptions in my calculations. However, overall, it shows why, if money is a big concern for you, that doing an apprenticeship is better than going to university. And obviously, if you're Muslim, there's other concerns around whether taking a student loan is haram or halal. So you will have to check that as well with a person of knowledge. And you know me, guys, I'm a big advocate for keeping your options open. So if you have applied to university or applied for an apprenticeship, make sure you apply for the other route as well, because it may be that you go for an apprenticeship, but you don't secure an offer. You're overwhelmed by the application process or the interview process. Equally, you may have applied to university and not secured the offers that you wanted. So definitely keep your options open. I'd say even if you're decided on one route, definitely apply for the other route as well and see where you get. Say if you're sure you want to go to university, well, applying for an apprenticeship will improve your interview practice so that when you get out of university and apply for grad roles, you'll have some experience in your pocket. So I'll leave you with that, guys. If you have any feedback or any questions, please feel free to comment below or message me on Instagram.